100 euro? 100? 100?
No, 850.
Okay, you did turn it on.
I did, we're up.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Board of Selectmen meeting here, Monday, November 6th, 2017. Mr. Clerk, please lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. If I could just ask you to please continue to stand. We have an update from the Commonwealth, from the Bureau of the State House, Massachusetts. Please be advised that as a mark of respect for the victims of this senseless act of violence perpetrated on November 5th, 2017 in Sutherland Springs, Texas, in accordance with the presidential proclamation, Massachusetts Governor Charlie Baker has ordered that the United States flag and the Commonwealth flag be lowered to half staff at all state buildings beginning immediately and should remain so until sunset Thursday, November 9th, 2017. This gubernatorial order applies to the main or administration buildings of each public institution of the Commonwealth, town, city halls, all state-owned or state-controlled buildings, and all state military installations. Just ask that we have a brief moment of silence in remembrance of those souls. Thank you. All right, on this evening's agenda, we will, first item on the agenda is to read the mail, then we'll have an opportunity for public input. If there is anybody that wishes to be heard, please just raise your hand and be recognized, and identify yourself and your address, and any comment should come through the chair. Then we'll have an opportunity for member updates. Third on the agenda is public information session, which is our first pass at the FY 2018 property tax rate classifications, which will prepare us for our November 13th, 2017 classification hearing. Item 4 is licensing. We have a number of licenses to approve, all of which I believe are at the point, with actually the exception of one, the liquor store on Great Road near the Common. At 8 o'clock, we have October 30, 2017 special town meeting follow-up. A number of items we have to take care of there. Item 6 is town administrator, assistant town administrator. Schedule public hearing for Chapter 61A, right of first refusal for 100 Spectacle Pond Road. 0.935 acres for $200,000, and Cricket Lane parcel R23-4-A, 11.08 acres for $1 million. We'll have some conversation about that. And item 7 is minutes approval, then we'll be adjourning after that. So, up first is the mail. Mr. Bergman, if you could take us into the mail, please.
Mr. Chairman, just a few items. First, we have the monthly newsletter from the Mass Municipal Association Beacon, which is included in your packet. We received a legislative alert from MMA last week, which urged communities to contact their legislators to beat back a proposed amendment that would have had a significant impact on ambulance fees that a community could charge. By the way, we were able to take information that staff had generated, share that with our legislators, and the report we got back from Senator Eldridge that the language, we'll call it the offending language, was not included in the Senate Ways and Means version. I think there were enough communities that they heard from. So that was a timely response. Then in the packet, we have a letter, rather far in advance, but it's from the National Multiple Sclerosis Society, telling us about an annual Minuteman bike ride, which we'll be going through Littleton in part, and this is next July, but we'll receive it, share it with the public safety folks so it's on their radar screen. And that's all we had for tonight.
Just relative to the Senator Eldridge's office being as responsive as they were, I'd just like to try to would like to have us send a thank you note off to him. Maybe something we could have.
Sure.
We're meeting like every Monday for the next several weeks, so.
Yes.
If we could have one in front of us, maybe for next Monday, we could
Sure.
all sign it and send it off, just show our appreciation. Very good. All right, so, moving right along. We've got an opportunity for public input. Is anybody that would like to be heard? Public input? Deputy Chief?
Chair, I just wanted to let you guys know, you'll probably see a lot of the officers with unshaven faces. They're participating in the No Shave November. They're raising money for the Park and Rec holiday gift tree. So they're gonna donate all the funds directly to them. They also have a GoFundMe page set up that if the public wanted to donate to it, they can do that as well.
So that's the
Each
best-
member is doing $100 that participates, so,
Great. So they'll each raise $100.
okay.
Great. And so if we want to make a donation,
You can go
go to that
to our,
GoFundMe page, or?
you can go to our website, our Facebook page, and then it has the GoFundMe link on it with the article.
Does Facebook have a beard? Facebook page?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chuck has one.
Deputy Chief, yeah. Haven't raised any money yet, though. Mr. Sanders?
Yeah, George Sanders, 672 Great Road. You put notice in the paper about the tax rate classification, which is gonna be the 13th of November, is that correct?
Correct.
But did you not put information in there about tonight?
Yes.
Yes, tonight is the introduction.
It was in. it was
It's our
in-
education
It was in
session.
the same article? It was in the same article? In the paper?
It was in the same notice.
It was in the same notice?
Yes.
Must have looked, I didn't think I saw it.
Yep.
All right, thank you.
Tonight's an information session.
I
It's,
understand that, I understand that.
help us to get a better understanding where we're at. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Member updates? Anybody want to jump in? Mr. Lady?
I'll take the low-hanging fruit. It was a great town meeting. Everybody who was involved with that should be applauded, and that includes board members who took the lead on issues, town administrator, town clerk, town moderator. I think it was, I'm not sure we've seen the real test yet on the measures to move town meeting along, but so far, so good. Also, there's a number of events from different outfits this week honoring our veterans, and some have already occurred, which I want to give kudos to our colleague Cindy Napoli, who was a part of the event recently at the VFW, which I was not able to attend, but we have a veterans luncheon this week and a supper at St. Anne's on Saturday too. And also on Saturday, I just want to remind folks of something that we've already announced from this board, and that's I believe it's this Saturday, the
Yes, it
fundraiser
is,
for Scott
this
Holt.
Saturday.
Yeah, which is up at
6
the
o'clock,
Billiards
yeah.
Cafe and Air, and anybody who can help out Holty, he's a good man and deserves our support.
Great. Thank you, Paul. Appreciate you bringing that up. Natalie?
Excellent, thank you. So I met this morning with Meredith Perry and Natalie Branch from the Littleton High School Health Club regarding the opioid crisis, and it was a productive meeting. So there's going to be a community and student forum that they're currently working on, and we will join in with that event. There'll be a guest speaker and some local community members, so there'll be more information about that coming forward in the coming weeks.
Excellent. Thank you. Mr. Gurley?
I think I mentioned it's an upcoming thing a couple of weeks ago, but the weekend before last, I was able to participate in the Littleton Robotics Middle School group's Lego preliminary judging event. So Bob Zimmerman, Connor, representative from Light and Water, and Eric Atkins, who works for Green International, who the town uses as a peer reviewing engineer, relatively regularly, all volunteered their time to judge some of these middle school groups' presentations. And I will say that Littleton, first of all, Littleton has 3 middle school teams, and every one of them was supremely well coached. And the amount of time that the volunteers put into working with those kids is remarkable, because the kids did great work. So I think their competition is in a month or so, but this was a preliminary thing.
Great. Mr. Knox?
I'm all set. Just want to congratulate the Littleton Park and Rec for the outstanding trunk or treat that they had last Saturday. They had, I think, over 1,000 kids and parents at that time. They did an outstanding job, and give credit to Tim and his crew. They said they're gonna have as many, try to build the attendance and have more this type of events going on in the Park and Rec. Secondly, the library is having a program that says, I read past my bedtime. That's this Friday. I will be there reading for part of that, so I
Don't scare the children, Joe.
With the hat, or?
I won't bring a hat. And last, talking about Littleton Robotics, they have their pasta dinner on November 14th from 6 to 8 at the Littleton Middle School cafeteria, and all are welcome.
Chuck's sitting here crossing things off his list.
That's the tough thing about going that. But I left this all the sporting stuff to you, see?
All what?
Sports?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so we have had some success in sports, in both the field hockey team and the football team are moving on. So it's, we've had some nice success. The soccer teams, the girls' soccer team was knocked out last Friday, I believe, but the field hockey team moved on. They play
They played today,
today.
didn't they?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, I haven't gotten the results, kind of just raced right in here from work.
Right.
But they'll get those results, we'll have a report out next week. But the football team does play on Saturday versus St. Peter Marion. That is at Doyle Field in Leominster at 2 p.m. So Saturday, and if the football team wins that game, they're going back to Gillette.
Wow.
So it's a pretty big deal, and I promised to get out an update on the field hockey team. We missed there. And just, again, Paul, you mentioned it, the kudos to everybody from town meeting, and I'd actually like to put an extended thank you out there to Diane Dickerson, who is the admin in the town administrator's office, and she's behind the scenes and does a lot to kind of keep
She
us.
organized us all.
Yeah,
for
she
that
keeps us
night,
all
yeah.
on. So thank you very much, Diane. Appreciate all the effort and time you put in to make us look better than we would if you weren't around. Maybe even good. Mr. Knox?
Mention the trunk or treat too, just to mention, our company came in first place on the theme and costumes.
Well, when you're dressed up as one of the lollipop kids.
I was in Mary Munchkin Land.
Mara Munchkinland, okay.
And JoJo was the lollipop kid.
All right.
JoJo really carried the team there.
Her back's sore. All right, thank you all. At this point, I'd ask Mr. Moody and Ms. Fleck to come forward and open up our public information session for the FY 2018 property tax classification. This is in preparation for next Monday's classification hearing. A lot of information to digest here, so go slow for us, Steve.
Absolutely.
Looks like field hockey got pushed off to tomorrow.
Because of the weather?
I don't know. Mike posted something on
Thank you.
Well, good evening. It's that time of year again. Starting off, we have some comparison data. I gave you all the details behind this, but just some highlights here. And we can go through that detail if you'd like, for any reason. So I have that packet already.
I think that if you could, yeah, I appreciate you getting us the background data, and I wanted to see it, and I think that the others probably appreciate it as well, just so we saw where it was coming from and where we are relative to the communities that you referenced.
So here's a little snapshot of that. This is last year's tax data. Everything, as much as we have moving parts in what we do, every town's going to have moving parts, so, I mean, this is how it looked at just a snapshot of last year. So this single-family tax bill, which is the most important number. So this is what the average resident is paying in taxes. At $7,288, it's a little bit less than the median. Our home values last year were less than the median also, at $401,000, a median at $424,000.
Okay.
Because value is down, tax rate is up. That's just how those things work. So our tax rate was a little bit over the median, 18.15. Growth rates for value, you can see that we were lagging behind last year in value from these 17 other communities. we had a 1.5% increase in overall value of the single-family home, whereas the median was 303.
Okay.
So we're a little bit behind that. Because we're a little behind, tax rate is up at 2.6, the median was only 0.88, and the single-family tax bill, which is, we're still below the median, but that spread from last year got a little closer because we were over the median, and the growth in our single-family tax bill at 413 to 367. So we're still below, but it got a little closer to the median, right? Next page is just 5-year and 10-year averages for those same things. We're trending in these 5 and 10 years at a little bit over the median for the communities. It's pretty consistent once we get past last year. What we're seeing now, and we'll get through this data in just a second, is things that change pretty significant this year. And then last year with the debt exclusion stabilization fund, using that, we'll see the changes in the levy and how that is affecting this year too.
Meaning that we should start dropping below, or we should start going back as debt outside of the books comes off the books, outside of the levy comes off the books?
Right, so this 5-year trend should start to slow down.
Because the general growth in property values wouldn't be really reflected anywhere, right? Because that just determines who pays what internally, right? But what affects the growth in the actual bill are growth in the debt outside.
Growth in the levy and the overall value.
Yeah, and our expenditures over and above the levy, right?
Right.
Right.
So let's talk about the levy. That was a good segue, Paul.
Thank you. We've been doing this for a while.
The levy for this year is $36.7 million. You can see the components there in the breakdown. New growth was $1.2 million. The exclusion debt would have been $1.7 million, but we're paying that down by $339,000 this year coming out of the overlay account. And that's going to save the single rate on the taxes by 19 cents. So the single rate, we'll get into the split rates and the single rate, but the single rate will be reduced by 19 cents because of that. This $1,409,000 is going to be the target, coming out to FY24. So this is, as you can see on the chart, the orange piece is where the exclusion debt would have been. So we would have been at the 1.7, 1.8 last year. And we're targeting the FY24 number of 1.4 million. So you can see we can keep that stable with the extra money that was just voted in at the town meeting. The extra $92,000 that went in there is getting us to go all the way out to FY24. So this is a great program, and I know Bonnie and myself would suggest that we continue this when we're doing FY19's budget to try and target FY25 to get a little extra reduction.
Essentially, we're adopting a mindset of acting as if we have an override or a debt exclusion, but it's all being done under the levy,
Yes.
right? So, good.
Right. A true stabilization. I mean, you're
Exactly.
stabilizing the
No,
tax
it's wonderful, it's great.
Yeah. Yeah.
So just keep it in mind as we go through the budget process for 19. After the levy, the second component of the tax rate is values. So FY18 was a non-reval year. Last revalue was in 16, so the next one will be in 21. It's every 5 years now. So interim adjustments become a little bit more important as we go through it. And the assessors made an interim adjustment this year. Existing property values increased by 2.63%. And then new growth contributed an extra 3.19% to total values. So if we look at that, total property values increased by 5.82 or $99 million for the year. Our total property value in 18 is $1.8 billion. Residential properties make up 77.73% of that total. And you can see that on the blue chart.
Okay, this question actually is referenced to the previous page, but that part about the revals being changed every 5 years, what do we expect the net impact on that to be for us? I'm just curious as to what was intended by why did the state do that? Move it from 3 to 5 years? Is it just, I mean, Fred, do you know, or Bonnie?
Less work.
Is that, okay, is that all it was, a work-saving thing?
Yeah.
And cost, if there's a cost to doing
Yeah.
this reval.
Good, well, I don't mind not having people come to my house noticing things that have been there for 40 years and telling me that they're not, currently being, on the assessment and being added to the mix, so it's okay by me.
When the governor's office did a sweep of municipal officials of the long list of things for his so-called weed whacking bill.
Right.
Expanding the time limit from 3 to 5 years to have to do a revaluation was on.
I mean, almost everything of note gets caught in the new growth calculations anyways, right? Isn't that
We
the,
have to do annual updates.
Yeah.
right, so I mean, what is the point of the revals?
It's really just to, really focus in on the sales data and the valuations of the properties with actual physical inspections.
Sounds like you could buy a program that would do that. Anyway.
I can subscribe, subscriptions you can get.
How does the, can you help me understand how the interim adjustment is made? What goes into the, in between the 5 years where we do the full reevaluation?
So an
Yeah.
interim adjustment, we take all the sales analysis, and they're all sorted by neighborhood, by styles, by year built, and you do a ratio study. And so this year I did a slight interim adjustment. It was only 2 out of all the neighborhoods that were actually adjusted. And I have to be within 10% of the sales, and so when I do my ratio study, any neighborhood that's way out, you have to look at that and do an adjustment to bring them up where they should be.
And so, I guess, how many sales are we actually looking at that feeds into that interim adjustment? Is it a really small number of sales? Is it a,
It's a couple hundred, I mean,
Okay.
It's all of the
It's all the
sales.
sales.
oh, it's all of
Yeah,
the
we're not
sales, but
excluding any of the sales.
So it's for a whole calendar year, so we use 2016 sales the entire year. In different classes, you have to use 2 years if you don't have enough sales to meet the guidelines.
Okay.
So like commercial, industrial, areas where there's less sales require 2 years, but residential is just wrong.
Thank you.
Steve, on this page on the right-hand side where it says residential at 77.7,
Mhm.
now that's gone down. Weren't we almost up to 83% at one point?
Again, another great segue, Joe, thank you.
Best practices.
Residential values as a percentage of total values. You can see we spiked in FY15 up to almost 80% right there, Joe. Last year, we were at 77.98% in FY17. So this year's increase in values up the top of the page, residential increased by 72 million, but it was only 73% of the total. So because it's less than the 77 it was last year, that ratio is going to go down. So it decreased by 25 basis points down to 77.73. The last time we were this low, between 17 and 18, was way back in FY03. So it's a combination, commercial values have increased, new growth on the commercial side has increased. We've gotten a lot of residential growth, but as a percentage, it's being outweighed a little by, right now, by the commercial properties. Okay. But it's very strong still. So that's 77.73. Keep that number in mind. That's the residential component of total property values. So if we're going to break down total property value changes, this is between existing and new growth. The orangey piece is the new growth piece. You can see 16, 17, and 18, very high. Again, a combination of residential and commercial. Existing valuations It's high in 16, that was a reval year. It was down last year, but we have a little interim adjustment this year that's bringing it back up. And you can see in the previous years, as we came through the recession, the existing values just stalled. Okay? Every year we try and do an estimate, and we'll get to the estimates later on, but we look at what we estimated last year for this year and what was actual for this year. The assessors came very close. Residential was about 5 million more in actual growth than what we had estimated, and commercial was $600,000 less. So we're right on there, kind of offset each other a little. And again, they were based on permits and submitted plans at the time. Property values for FY18, we're looking at the average single-family home value. 18, it's up to $418,000 compared to $401,000 last year. Back in '07, we were at $415,000, so we've gotten back that value. You can see at the low point in FY13, it went down to $366,000 as the average value, a 12% decrease. And from that point up to 18, we have a 14% increase, so we've made up that value.
Is there any meaningful difference here between the average home values and the median home values? In other words, are they
Between the mean and the median.
The state, when they look at it, always looks at average. They just take the parcel count by the total value, put it in there. The median, we look at the median for the different communities, because if you look like at Carlisle, Acton, those
sure?
are way off the charts up there. So if we average them, it would be really a skewed number. Commercial property, the assessors like to take a look at values less than 2 million and greater than 50,000 to get really what the average commercial business, small business is in town. You can see it was very flat from 7 to 15 and started to spike in 16. So we're currently at 556, up from 541 last year. And the example I gave last year was the average commercial property, Sherry Gould's office building on King Street. That is the average. She's just about right there in the average. So that's the typical property we're looking at. Now the fun. Assessed values. So the blue is, I can see it scroll down a little on this one, but the blue at the $1.4 billion, 77.73%, that's the residential piece. So we're looking at total property value here, $1.8 billion is splitting between commercials and residential. So commercial is 22%, we're at 77.73 on the residential. If we would have a single tax rate, residential would be responsible for 77.73% of the total levy. Commercial would be responsible for 22%. Single tax rate would be 2034, and we'd pay for the entire $36.7 million levy. So if we had a single tax rate, we'd be done right now, but we're not. We have a split tax rate. Split tax rate takes a portion of the residential levy, 77% that they're responsible for, and ships it to the commercial piece. It's by a vote of the board, and we can't shift more than 50% of the existing commercial levy. And the example says if the commercial levy is 8 million, we can only shift a maximum of 4 million. So they're responsible for 12 million. And that 50% is a formula that's used by the state, so you can't go over that. Okay? So here's a example, and I use the shift that you voted, that the board voted last year of 11.03%, to use that again this year. Excuse me. If we were to do that, that little gray piece of the pie is what would be shifted. So 11.03% of the original blue section of the pie, it was 28 million, 28.5, right?
Yeah.
11% of that 28.5 would shift to the commercial. So 11.03% of residential is really 8.57 of the total pie. So that 857, $3 million, gets shifted over to the commercial. So they were now responsible for 30.84% of the total, the 22 plus the 8. So in that case, this would be what we'd be looking at as far as dividing up the levy. Residents would be responsible for 69%, commercial would be responsible for 30.84%. We'd still pay for the entire $36 million levy. And these numbers down the bottom there, the terms that were used in going through some of the numbers. So the shift is 11.03. So we took 11.03% of the blue, original blue pie, shifted it over to the commercial. CIP factor, 1.38. The commercial piece increased by 38.5%. Remember, we can't go over 50, but that resulted in 38.5% increase in the commercial levy. The residential factor, the actual number that you vote, 88.97. That's what's left of the original blue piece. So 88% of the original blue slice is left for the residents. Okay, does that all make sense?
Makes a lot better sense when you're here with us versus sitting down on the couch over the weekend.
Let me tell the new members what my rule of thumb was, that 3 years to figure it out. The first year, ask all the questions you want. Second year, if you still haven't figured it out, you don't look dumb if you haven't asked all the same questions. By the third year, you just can act like you know what you're talking about.
That's where I'm at.
So that's where it shows.
And again, I made this offer to Cindy. If any one of you would like to stop in this week, Bonnie and I are more than happy to sit down with you and go through this in detail. Just send us an email. Okay? Historically, this is what we've done in the past few years. You can see the past 2 years in that top line, that shift. So it's the percentage of reduction in the blue slice has been 11.03%. The blue line is the residential percentage of total value. That's that line that we saw decrease over the past couple of years, down to 77, 73. And the orange line is the levy that the residential piece of the pie is responsible for. So what does this all mean? This showing a decrease in what the residential values are compared to the total, with the same shift. And one of the things you have to be careful of when you're looking at this is not to get into the habit of saying, we did this last year, so that's what we should continue doing.
There's other factors that come into this.
What happened last year is totally different from how those puzzle pieces are made up this year. Values changed, the levies changed. And those are pretty significant changes in what happened this year. So you could say that by shifting 11% of the levy last year, I think it was 2.9 million, what we did last year. And we saw that 11% of the levy this year is a little over 3 million, 3.1, 3.2 million or so. So you can see those numbers change over time. So you could say that with the decreasing residential valuation a percentage. And what's that right number? I mean, this is what you need to figure out. What's that right balance? And you could, is that 69% that they're responsible for? Is that a target? Is 70% a target? I mean, that's the number that you really have to flush out and come up with a good reason. And then, as we move forward with some of the, look at this chart, and you can see how meaningless some of these things could be. This is just a number factor.
But, and I want to jump in, if that looks like it's chaotic, your historical memory would, probably agree with mine, that most of those years, the intent was that a shift was already built in, and that was kind of chasing the shift necessary to kind of keep a more or less status quo. I mean, the philosophy changed a little bit here and there about changing, but mostly it was always trying to keep whatever dollar amount changes or percent changes from year to year. And since valuations fluctuated so much in new growth, you had to throw all sorts of wild, changes in there to achieve that.
This is the 1.5% limit. So you
Right.
can see we actually hit it in a couple of years,
Yeah.
going back. And then, back in 14, we spiked it up a bit more. Since then, it's come down. If we did the 11.03 again, that I showed in the example, it would come down a little bit more, 1.385 it came up to. One of the things to look for is estimates going forward. So as long as you figure out where you think we should be, and then you could use this estimated data to say, okay, where's that going to take us in a couple of years? And these just estimates. 19 is a little bit more solid than what 20 and 21 would be. But you can see new growth in 19 is going to be very strong again. Again, combination of residential and commercial. The point is winding down. There's very little on the commercial side. This is mostly residential growth that's happening. Valuation changes, we put in maybe like a 1% valuation change on the residential side in the next couple of years, just to keep interim changes going. 21 will be a reval year, so it's a little bit higher right now in our estimates. Breaking out new growth, like I just said, residential in 19 is going to be still very strong. And you can see what happens with commercial after the point is fully done in 19. We're just left with basically, property improvements to commercial properties in 2021. There's nothing new on the horizon after the point goes.
But logically, it's harder and harder to project the out years anyways.
Yes, absolutely.
Is that typical that a couple of years out, it's difficult to project commercial and industrial, or is that?
But we had a little
specific to
easier
this?
time knowing the point was going to be coming. But outside of that, well, I'd have to defer to Kathy again.
It's hard. And we looked at building permits, and so that's mainly what I'm using to estimate the new growth. And with commercial and industrial, there was just not many down the pike. We have the cinema coming on next year, which we didn't take in this year. There's going to be some vacancy reduction at the point where I'm going to put a little bit additional growth on for that. But outside of that, there was no real permits to foresee anything commercial, industrial.
Should we be concerned about that? About the slow on commercial growth, or not?
Build a sewer.
They will come.
Yeah, build a sewer, or if,
Workers'
if
credit
the
union.
Workers' Credit Union on Russell Street happens, that'll show up in a future year.
Right.
And I forgot who asked, in terms of projecting the commercial growth out, it's actually a little bit easier because it's a little longer in the planning process, so you have some forewarning
Right.
that that's coming. Not necessarily the amount, but we know that we know to expect it, as with residential, taking something out of the chapter and converting it to residential use is a little faster.
So a couple of years of notice is, you would expect to see information today that would indicate more commercial and industrial growth in FY '20, if it was actually gonna happen. You'd expect to see permits and things.
410 Great Road, if someone purchased 410 Great Road, the mill building, and they were gonna totally redevelop that.
Sure.
Yeah, you'd hear something.
Yeah, it would be a lag time. The thing that we haven't even begun to process is, as a result of the zoning that was approved last Monday night, there's going to be some significant, I mean, we're already hearing rumblings of some significant development proposals that will be made, and those are, none of that is factored in.
Senior housing.
For senior housing, yeah, none of that is factored in.
With the commercial component.
For like
Right.
here.
You know,
So,
Sure.
into new, and it translates to new growth.
In residential have a different character in terms of impact on services. Shows up in some accounts and not on others.
Right. Probably a net benefit,
Right.
yeah.
So you can see with these estimates down the very bottom, residential percentage of total starts to increase a little, since that's the only component of new growth that we'll be seeing. So look at that chart again, and see, next 3 years starts to tick up a little.
Okay.
So you have the classification hearing packet, which has some options in it.
So
You
that's,
can- Those are just ones that we put on the sheet. You can do anything in between, or,
for me, this sheet that says FY 18 sample options, this,
Which one?
the FY 18, in the next
Second
packet,
one?
Yeah,
pages
it's in the
in,
next, the next.
the sample options,
Yeah.
it tells us, based upon the average residential property, what the actual tax bill would be and what the impact is if we go this way or that way. So that, for me, that,
I remember a time where I think, Fred, this was the only sheet we got, right?
Oh, no, there were other things, but we only
This
had
was
one
the only one
computer.
that was
That was the
decisive.
problem.
an old Tandy
We had one.
dot matrix printer.
Just,
Rapid feed.
if I can just illustrate a point on this, because I sort of added this in years ago, is if you look at the average, I think, there's a number up there, Steve, that.
it's on the printouts that.
Oh,
they
it's
have
on the
for
other one.
sheet,
There's,
yeah.
there's one of the sheets that shows you how much the change in the bill is, and it goes, starts at the single rate and goes to the maximum CIP shift. And if you exclude the first and the last, maximum and single, it gives you a range of changes in tax value. There you go. That's it right there, the residential dollar change. So if you look, it's going from 226 to 360. So based on those examples, your impact is what, $134 over the cost of the year? So if you go from one extreme to the other up there, you're looking at affecting the average homeowner $10 a month. So you just, sometimes
Perspective.
your deliberations get a little worked up over $12, and I just like to help you out with that, so.
It's
Put in your
appreciated.
2 cents.
Exactly, I'd like,
Oh,
well, these hearings used to be 2 or 3 hours.
you'll be here all week.
I think Fred missed the Celtics game one time because of a hearing, if I'm not mistaken.
I just remember formulas on the whiteboard that no one could understand, and that was,
Appreciate all the work and time and effort.
And just to show the point that I made earlier, last year, so this, get my mouse here so I can point. Come on. Last residential levy percentage, last residential shift, and last commercial factor, all were the same last year. So those things are equal. So because of the way things shifted around, by selecting those different things, you're now selecting different options. Okay? So the 1103 was different than the .889 that was selected.
This was the one sheet that made the most sense to me. But it helped make everything else make sense. Any questions as we prepare to have our hearing next week?
This, just if I might, Jim, I don't know if the column is somewhere else that we could reference, but the change in what the residential dollar change would be. Do we have a similar column for what effect it would be on the CIP? Because obviously, less properties.
Second to last.
It is? Okay, it's up there. Oh, CIP, thank you. Great.
Great
It's
question.
a little bit more meaningful on that end of the equation.
Yeah, right, it's
differences.
all in one place, so it's, again, for me. it
But I
was
mean, the jump is like a difference of $600 as opposed
Meaningful,
to.
meaning, yeah, more substantial.
Right.
And remember, that is the average smaller
Based on
business
Cherry
in
Gould's.
town. So, the IBMs and the potpourris and
Right.
market baskets aren't included in this.
They're outside the margins.
Yes.
Right.
All right. Any other comments or questions as we get ready to?
What's the current rate for both? 1826, is that?
1815?
That sounds familiar.
It's 1805, I forget what the commercial is.
1815 and 2837.
2837, 1815?
1815 residential, 2837.
All right.
So most of these options that we're showing here, it's going to be a reduction in the actual tax rate values went up.
Right.
So from number 3 down, there's a reduction in the residential rate.
Rate. Direct impact on the actual bill.
But of course, we have this thing that we can take a.
You can take any option, even ones that are in between ones that are shown there.
Right. There's infinite number of options.
It's probably a decision about $1 or so.
Yeah, we did argue about that last year.
The other policy decisions you make in addition to splitting the tax rate are on the personal, there are,
Exceptions?
yeah, the exemptions for,
Personal property?
No, for veterans and,
Residential, business exemption?
Small business, one of the things to do with personal property for like summer,
Right.
affects.
small commercial exemption and residential exemption. Anything to say about either of those?
I would say that where we already have a split rate here, we're affecting the change to provide those reliefs to the residential class.
Right.
What this would do is if you did adopt a residential exemption, it would allow certain properties to be exempt from taxes up to whatever threshold we voted. But then it gets shifted among the other residential
Right,
class
it's only for owner occupied.
parcels. So you're just shifting it within its own class.
Right.
And you're making, where we have a split tax rate, you're affecting the relief in a probably more productive way.
The exemptions typically for communities with large summer home,
yeah.
I mean,
Can't.
yeah, down on the Cape, that sort of thing.
And it shifts it entirely from, essentially, shifts it from the year-round population to the non-year-round population, which is not a factor here. And in fact, if we did it, it would shift it from, it would have an inordinate impact on renters, where it's not owner occupied. So that's historically why Littleton has never adopted a residential exemption.
Okay. Bonnie, Kathy, Fred, anything to add?
I guess, just going forward, we want to make sure that our commercial growth is keeping up with the residential growth. Because if we have a particular year where we have a tremendous amount of residential growth and a decline in commercial values, then we won't be able to shift the 11% that, we're doing this year to the residential class. You could be in danger of, if residential outpaces it, then the residential class would bear the full 2.5% increase plus new growth, because you wouldn't be allowed to shift anything to the
Because of the
commercial.
limitations that are set.
So maintaining that parity is important in the development process.
When you start to bump against that 1.5%,
Right.
as we almost did in a few years, it's just pushing it all to the residents at that point in time.
Good point. So if, especially given those dynamics, if there were ever a year where we would hedge in the other direction, this might be it, because the residences are already gonna be seeing a reduction based on, one, are not taxing to the max under the levy, and then because of the growth on the commercial industrial side, just the percentage shift. So if we wanna save our ability to give people relief down the road, we might wanna inch away from the
ceiling.
The ceiling, yeah.
Good point. Does anybody else have anything they want to, any questions, anybody want to ask relative to this? Mr. Sanders?
George Sanders, 672 Great Wood. Have a few questions. In this budget, for 18 is 36 million. What's the difference between 17 budget?
It's about $2.5 million.
Well, is that 2.5 million? I know that we're definitely in need of a large dollar value item that we need to spend in this town, and that's for the fire station ladder. Where is this in this formula? Is it in 18 budget, or is it in 19 budget that we're going to purchase a new ladder?
So we haven't, that is definitely something that has come up as a preliminary want or ask for 2018, 2019 budget. But that summit, when we have our summit, where all the boards and all the departments come together and present their wish list, and we kind of deliberate about what's gonna be in the budget. So for us to say today that we're definitely buying a ladder truck and it's gonna cost us $1.25 million, or whatever the number happens to be, that's not in here right now.
But it is in the capital plan, so it's not a
It is in the plan.
surprise.
Correct, correct. But that's not included in the 36.759.
No, this is a result of everything that you voted up to this date. So anything from the special town meeting in October and the May town meeting. It's just allocating that
This is
spending
how we're
plan.
paying for.
This is,
the current
right, this is
fiscal
how
year.
we're paying for up to today.
Right.
And what we take on for tomorrow and in the future are the things that are in our budgets and our 10-year fiscal plans and so on.
On this tip, the tax incentive financing, like the theaters coming on board, are they under that benefit?
They don't.
Of getting this?
They're not under the TIP program.
The only new one's the Pepsi plant.
The Patriot Beverage was the last one that we,
Beverage, last one
extended.
we had. How many others do we have in town that is coming due to go to full taxing?
We're still
So which
years
ones-
away, yeah, the
yeah,
oldest.
IBM would be the first one.
IBM is the oldest, and that was from 2008, so it'll be,
How many years was that?
that's a 20 years.
20
so,
years?
Yeah.
Well, another 10 to go, right?
Yes,
Potpourri.
another 10, yeah, it'll be 20. Potpourri had a 12-year, which I think we're in year 2 or 3 now, so another decade. So it'll be a while.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right,
Great job.
very good. Thank you
Yeah, thank
all
you.
for
Good for now.
a lot of
Steve,
time.
watch your email.
Yeah.
This was
It
just a
makes sense
preview
now
of
that-
coming in
yeah,
tax
right.
years.
Makes more sense than it did before we started.
There you go. Better.
As soon as they leave, we're gonna stop.
On the right,
Oh, one more thing.
Well, seriously, come in and see us if there are questions.
That's-
You know,
you
it's a
guys-
lot to absorb.
You guys were a big help last year, for me. Last 2 years for me. All right, I lost my agenda.
Hearing time.
Hearings.
All right.
Practically 7:30.
Right. So we have
Thank you.
public hearing for JM Littleton Incorporated, DBA Littleton's One Stop Liquors at 340 Constitution Ave, The Point, Littleton, Mass. For a common victualer's license, 7:30.
How'd you pronounce that, Chuck?
Victular. Common vic license. Council, want to read that, Mr. Clerk? Good. For this
Which was 31. The
4A.
Board of Selectmen will conduct a public hearing on Monday, November 6, 2017, at 7:30 PM in room 103 of the Town Office Building at 37 Shattuck Street, Littleton, Mass. to consider the application for a common victualer's license, Mass General Law 1, Chapter 140, subsection 2, as requested by Caitlin Silver, manager, JM Littleton Incorporated, doing business as Littleton's One Stop Liquors for the property located at 340 Constitution Ave, Littleton, Mass. The point at and which application is available for review at the Littleton Town Hall, room 306. The hours of operation will be Monday through Saturday from 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. and Sunday from 10 a.m. to 11 p.m. at the premises described as all alcohol package store. Comments thereon may be submitted in writing to the Selectmen's and Town Administrator's Office at 37 Shattuck Street, Littleton, or in person at the hearing. All interested parties are invited to attend. Littleton Board of Selectmen, Charles DeCoste, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk.
For the record, Paul Alphen, I represent the applicant. As you recall, earlier this year, you were approved an all-alcoholic beverage retail packaged goods store license for the premises at the Point. As we were getting ready to open, we understood it was the practice of the town of Littleton to require a common victualer's license for the sale of sundries such as chips and non-alcoholic beverages. It's for that purpose the application was submitted. Hopefully, the board can approve the common victualer's license and they can sell potato chips.
But no Slim Jims.
Gotta go to the Board of Health.
What kind of chips?
Low fat.
They're baked. Any questions, deliberation?
Not necessarily germane to the application before us, but pretty much everything as planned still going forward. Any other change in operations?
Yeah, they hope to open right away.
Yeah.
They went through the process that we had worked out with town council and with the town administrator for obtaining the licenses. They got their licenses. With their license, they're able to acquire beverages from the distributors, and they're ready to open up.
This manager is the same person we were,
That's correct. The daughter of our clients that operate a bunch of other package store licenses. And they'd be here, except the whole family's working,
Sure.
operating their package stores.
be open before Thanksgiving, I assume.
That's the goal. You know, maybe by tomorrow.
Let us know. We'll bring the ribbon and the scissors.
The only, I mean, to Paul's point, it may not be germane, but did we approve it to 11 p.m. on Sunday, the liquor license?
Whatever the liquor license says, we'd like the same hours of operation. I don't have the license with me, but if you want to vote that the hours of operation will be identical to those which were approved in the liquor license, that would be perfectly appropriate.
Yeah, I think that's, I'd prefer that.
I do think we ended up giving them 11. I forget why, yeah. But what council's set point is,
I'd feel more comfortable with that language being in there, just to make sure that it mirrors the liquor license. Any other questions, comments? Chief, Deputy Chief, any comments? I mean, the liquor license has already been, you okay with chips? No pretzel sticks?
just in case public had any points, otherwise a motion to close the hearing.
Anybody have any comments?
So moved.
Motion to close the hearing, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. It's unanimous. Great, thank you. So the hearing's closed. And any further deliberation about the,
These are written down.
I'll move that the Board of Selectmen vote pursuant to MGL Chapter 140, Section 2, to approve the application of JM Littleton Incorporated, doing business as Littleton's One Stop Liquors, Caitlin Silva, manager, for a common vic license for premises at 340 Constitution Ave, The Point, Littleton, Mass. The hours of operation will be as previously approved for the liquor license at the premises described above, as an all alcohol package store. I think I butchered that a little bit.
He's good.
Pretty close.
Diane will get it. She'll
Diane's
clean it
got
up.
it.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much.
So we can picture it.
Okay, so, not quite at
I think we'll have to
7:45.
copy it this one, because I think we had the wrong thing again. So we took 11.
Get rid of things like, we don't have any minutes. Do we do any minutes?
No, you don't have minutes. You could do C, 4C and 4D.
That's true.
Those are not timed.
All right, so 4C,
4C is Sherry.
Great Road Liquors Package Store, name change. Good evening.
We're doing 4C because it's not 7:45. And then, so we'll do the
This is
name
for the name
change
change?
first, and then we'll go back and do the common vic.
Thank you.
Hi,
Hi.
it's all yours.
Cheryl Gould for the applicant, my husband, Dominic Seven, he's the manager and the owner of Great Road Liquors, Inc. Originally, we asked for the DBA to be Liquors on the Common, thinking that the Littleton Liquors name would go to the Point along with the license. But now that the Littleton Liquors has been sold, and they're going to call it One Stop Liquors, I think it would be convenient if we could retain the DBA name, Littleton Liquors. The formal corporate name is still Great Road Liquors, but if we got back the DBA Littleton Liquors, then my husband can decide if he wants to change the name and all the signage and everything, or use the Littleton Liquors name that people are familiar with at that location.
Any comments? Seems to make sense. Common sense. You good? Entertain a motion?
Sure. Move that the Board of Selectmen vote pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, to approve the application of Great Road Liquors, Inc. to change its doing as business DBA name for its all alcohol package store license at 320 Great Road, Littleton, from Liquors on the Common to Littleton Liquors, and to so notify the Alcoholic Beverages Control Commission.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Unanimous? Thank you.
Thank you. Let's just
All
step
right,
back.
so, yeah, just,
We're still
Still ahead of schedule.
7:45.
How late into the year do you go with the Hawaiian shirts there? We use Jimmy Clyde as a barometer and his shorts.
When it got really cold, when it gets really cold.
Yeah, 70 today.
It's been nice.
next up, we have item 4D, which is the Tavern on the Square all liquor license. What do you hear? Tavern on the Square? Should we table that, see if they do come at
Were we expecting
7:45?
anybody, Keith?
We always expect the applicant.
All right, perhaps they're anticipating it to come up at 7:45, as it's under the agenda at 7:45, so let's put that aside. Are there any of the, well, probably there's some conversation around, what about 5D, accepting the deed from McIntosh Lane? I think that's pretty vanilla, isn't it?
Yes.
So this is special town meeting Article 16, where the town voted to accept the deed for the public way layout. So we need
And the
to
last step is to accept the deed. Right, we'll have town
formally
council.
accept that. So
If I remember correctly, that was on the, that wasn't even debated at town meeting, right? Wasn't that?
it was in the call,
Yeah.
call the articles, yeah. So is there any discussion or deliberation relative to McIntosh Lane? Entertain a motion?
Move the Board of Selectmen vote pursuant to October 30th, 2017 special town meeting, Article 16, to accept the deed from DECA Corporation of Tewksbury, Mass. for the roadway known as McIntosh Lane is shown on the street acceptance plans prepared by Places Associates Incorporated dated September 5th, 2017, subject to approval as to form by town council.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous. Thank you very much.
Are any of those other ones, Mr. Chairman? I mean, it's just pro forma, isn't it?
Well, the speed limits, I think we'll have some
Probably-
conversation with the chief.
You could probably do the
B,
B,
B, Charlotte
yeah.
Hartwell. So this is to accept similar situation, special town meeting, Article 10, accept the deed for property donation to the cemetery from Charlotte Hartwell, the state of Charlotte Hartwell, rather. Any discussion, deliberation, comments? Entertain a motion?
Move that the Board of Selectmen vote pursuant to October 30th, 2017, Article 10, to accept the deed from the estate of Charlotte Hartwell for 15 acres of land located at 46 Hartwell Avenue and shown on Assessor's Map R17 as parcel 30, abutting the West Lawn Cemetery, with the land to be held in the care, custody, management, and control of the Littleton Cemetery Commission to be used for cemetery purposes, and on such other terms and conditions as are agreed by the Board of Selectmen.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Aye, it's unanimous. Thank you very much. All right.
remainder required discussion.
I think so, right? Yeah, I think. Chris, if you want to play some hold music up there in the booth. Wayne's World. Put the little cartoon up there.
Well, this is what the planning board had to do their last meeting, didn't they have like 5 or 10 minutes?
Yeah. If you've got 6 minutes, I wonder if that's enough time to discuss
roads?
the speed limits. Because all you're doing, I don't want to say all you're doing, but the proposal is to schedule
A hearing anyway.
Hearing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and so we have a list of roads which are shown on this map.
This is item
Proposed
5C.
20 and 25 mile per hour speed limits. The 20 are shown in red, the 25 are shown in yellow. There's also, the list itself is in your packet. It would be posted in a public hearing notice, would have the name of the streets there, but the chief can go over the methodology and.
The deputy and I, when we sat down and looked at it, especially up the lake, or the compact areas, Lake Mattawanakee, Lake Warren, especially in there, all those roads right now are non-posted, thickly settled 30-mile-an-hour zones, which those roads are, none of them are appropriate for 30 miles an hour. So we looked up there, and that's why we kind of designated the red ones the safety zones. There's a lot of bad sight lines up in the lake, Lake Mattawanakee, Lake Warren. And 20 miles an hour for those sections are very appropriate. We also did sections, like the front section of Russell Street from King Street to the 495 bridge. There's, right now the sign says, 20 miles an hour while children are present, going by the middle school and the Russell Street School. Well, there's always something going on at the school complex there. So we think it's fully appropriate to have that area 20 miles an hour from King Street right to the bridge at all times. Over the bridge, the 30 miles an hour is working perfectly. The signs are starting to slow people down. The extra enforcement is slowing people down. But, by the schools, we believe the 20 mile an hour zone is appropriate. Also, Chris Stoddard, myself, Keith met with some residents on Howard Avenue. We're having some problems up at the intersection of Foster Street and Howard Ave. So there'll be some listings coming there for asking for 20 mile an hour zones from 1,000 feet in all directions from the four-way intersection to get people slowed down going into that intersection. If you recall, years ago, that used to be a four-way stop at that intersection. The problem was everyone coming down Foster Street on the hill slid right through the stop sign in the winter, and it made it even more dangerous. So now it's the two-way stop. Obviously, there are streets that we're going to revisit You know, this is a fairly comprehensive list, but I'm sure we've missed some that we'll have to come back for, but this gets us our first blanch now that the board has been given the authority to set those speed zones. The only thing we can't set are speed zones on state highways, except with, you can ask, and then get permission from the state to slow those speeds down.
Restricted.
Right, like if we wanted to try and get the common designated a 20-mile-an-hour zone, we'd have to get the state's permission for that. But your roads or the town's roads, you can make those designations.
And this was all made possible by a change in Mass General Law.
That's correct, and acceptance by town meeting.
Right.
At the special town meeting.
Right, which allowed us to be able to.
Which is great, because what's happened to us many times is we've asked for lower speed limits, the state comes out and does the study, and the speed limit goes up 5 or 10 miles an hour, which has happened actually every time we've done one in recent history, because they take the 75th percentile of the speeds when they put the speed clickers out there. It's like, well, okay, that's great, but it's still not appropriate for that speed. Like Goldsmith Street went up when they did the study, and when we did the rebuild, we had them leave it at the non-posted, thickly settled at 30, for that reason.
Mr. Levy?
And just to reiterate, all that's being requested tonight is to schedule a hearing for Monday, December 4th, and any vote would take place subsequent to that or at that date. And the question I have on the notification, are all the residents of these roads to be notified individually, or what's the plan on notification?
Newspaper.
Okay. So we're not anticipating doing
Up until now, we were not.
Well, I just-
sending
We'll have a
notice.
snazzy new website here in a couple days.
that's true.
Can we do it
I know.
reverse 911 and make people aware that we do have this posted somewhere?
It's a brilliant
That's a
idea.
great idea.
Certainly can do that.
Right.
Technology.
We'll do that during a daytime thing with.
Yeah, that shows that we're making an individual call, that's good. Yeah. Otherwise, you'll hear about it from somebody the day after
That's a
the
great,
hearing.
no, that's a great idea. Yeah.
And as a procedural matter, we're not necessarily voting on these as a package. We're reviewing them and evaluating them individually,
That's correct.
Right.
Each
If
street
there are
is
ones that
listed.
you want to take off the list, you can do that.
but not add to the list at the hearing. If we needed to add any, that would require another process.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah, in fairness to the affected
Right.
property owners.
Yeah, because I don't live on Matthew Drive anymore, so I plan on that going up by like 15 miles an hour. See how fast you can go before the circle? Just kidding.
Right.
Little neighbors.
Or if there's a street you live on and you want to recuse yourself from that one, you take a separate vote, so.
Well, we're closing on 7:45. Do you want a motion, Mr. Chairman?
I would entertain a motion to have a hearing.
All right. I'll move that the Board of Selectmen vote to receive recommendations of the police and highway departments to establish 20 and 25 mile per hour speed limits on certain townways pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 90, Sections 17C and 18B, as accepted by Article 15 of the October 30th, 2017 special town meeting, and to schedule a public hearing for Monday, December 4th, 2017, at 7:30 PM on proposed amendments to Town Code, Chapter 205, Vehicles and Traffic Regulations to establish said speed limits.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right,
Meanwhile, back,
so,
I wasn't looking forward to presenting that one at town meeting if I had to explain. This is just the authority, we're not,
right,
all right.
and
All right.
it's just your luck, we called
I was truly disappointed.
the article, so.
So let's circle back to 4B, public hearing for Great Road Liquors, DBA Liquors in the Common, 320 Great Road. Welcome back. This is for a common vic.
Do you want this read again?
Gets a different,
Different light, it's a different
All right,
post.
the Board of Selectmen will conduct a public hearing on Monday, November 6, 2017, at 7:45 PM in room 103 of the Town Offices Building, 37 Shattuck Street, Littleton, Mass., to consider the application for a common victuals license, Mass General Law, Chapter 140, Chapter 2, as requested by Dominic Seaman Jr., manager of Great Road Liquors, included doing business as Liquors on the Common for the property located at 320 Great Road, Littleton, and which application is available for review at Littleton Town Offices in room 306. The hours of operation will be Monday through Saturday, 9 to 11, and Sunday from 10 a.m. to 11 p.m. We might want to change that. At the premises described as an all-alcohol package store, Amendments thereon may be submitted in writing to the Selectmen, Town Administrator's Office at 37 Shattuck Street, Littleton, or in person at the hearing. All interested parties are invited to attend. Littleton Board of Selectmen, Charles DeCoste, Chairman.
Charles. Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Welcome back.
Again, Cheryl Gould for the applicant, Dominic Seven, the applicant. We'll have what Paul Alphin just had. Same
I
application.
think the only thing that would add is just,
Right.
Joe alluded to it.
Make it consistent with the liquor
Just
license.
be consistent with the liquor license, yeah.
For the hours, yeah.
But I do have Slim Jims.
You gotta change that to jerky, straight up jerky.
Peels off that.
Curious, Mr. Chairman, whether we have any public input or from the chief, and other than that,
I don't know what I just heard, we might have to reopen an investigation.
Extensive product sampling,
Anyone else wish to be heard? All right.
Move to close the hearing.
second.
Moving seconded, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Unanimous, the hearing is closed. Any further discussion about the common vics license application? All right. Mr. Gerben, you have it there?
move that the Board of Selectmen vote pursuant to MGL Chapter 140, Section 2, to approve the application of Great Road Liquors Incorporated, doing business as now Littleton Liquors. Right?
Thank you.
Dominic J. Seven, Jr., manager for premises at 320 Great Road, Littleton, Mass. The hours of operation to be consistent with the liquor license at the premises. The premises described as an all-alcohol package store.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thanks for your
much.
support, everybody.
Have a good night.
Okay, now we'll go back to item 4D, Tavern in the Square, all alcohol license. No applicant?
Do you understand what they're asking for here, Keith? Is this
I was
common?
going to ask
Yeah.
for clarification on
I
what this
certainly
means.
want the applicant to explain.
Yeah, I mean, Chief, are you familiar with this?
No, sir.
I mean, I don't know what we're being asked to give away.
Questions about what it was.
Pledge of collateral, so I think,
Yeah, but the liquor license is collateral. I don't know that we want to
I-
make that a commodity that you can shift
Right, I mean,
around.
would the bank would take it over if something failed?
can we invite them back and
Sure.
just
Yeah,
table
we
this?
can table this till next Monday night.
All right, so this hearing is
No
not
soup
been
for you.
opened. Right. Mr. Glavy, you got some nips over there?
I know. You look like that guy, too.
All right, back to item 5, which is the special town meeting follow-up. Article 9 is 5A, sorry, which references Article 9, which is the Cooper Pond parcels, which we need
Yeah.
to do the same thing, right? Accept the deed.
Yeah, and the information that we have from Town Council Chris Heap is that the form of the deed is still being worked on. It is expected to be finalized in time for us to take up the matter on Monday night. We got an update from Chris this afternoon, which I had attached in the email, which said what next week's agenda is going to be.
Right.
We gotta stop meeting every Monday.
I agree.
Then we only have two, like, working days to put in. But it was my suggestion that we have these meetings now, so I'll know better.
Working out.
But so we're meeting next week. We will need another week to finalize the form of the deed. There have been some issues that have been raised. The chair and I had a conference call with town council last week on some of the outstanding issues. Chris Heap is making progress on those, and that will hopefully have a deed that is approvable a week from tonight. Among the issues that we're looking at is that the developer is seeking to have permission to have access to the entire, all the acres of all 4 of the open space parcels during construction, which was not something that we felt good about. If there needed to be specific access in specific locations for a specific period of time, not for 5 years, as was proposed. We can talk about that. What we're told is that we'll get a plan from the developer's attorney, who's going to walk the site with her client this week, which will say if there's a particular location that's needed to get from point A to point B, not, that is small a, not,
Got it.
then we can see that and know that if there's an easement that's retained for access over a certain portion of the property, that we can see it and understand why, but we could not give approval for the entire acreage, for all 22 acres to have, free, unimpeded access for 5 years.
It would limit us from being able to do anything for 5 years.
Right.
Would those easements still have a sunset on them?
5 years.
Okay.
5
So
years
a-
is what's
after 5 years,
proposed,
they
and we'll see what, what the duration.
Did they give a basis for 5 years? I mean, what, I have a hard time envisioning why
We,
5 years worth of
well,
anything would be necessary. We can certainly debate it when we see
yeah,
what they're
and
looking
the,
for.
the instructions that were given to town council is that whatever the reason, we're hearing 5 years for the entire acreage, and that's not something that we could agree to. So it needs to be more defined what the access would be. So we're working on that. The other issue was a proposal to prohibit any structures of any kind on any of those 4 properties. It's not our intention to build a structure, certainly not our intention to build anything of the sort on agricultural or open space land, but we don't know yet what the recreational facility at Area A is going to be. Is it going to have bleachers? Is it going to have, some sort of utility building, something, a restroom, something? And so we are wordsmithing right now what that restriction would look like. And Chris is optimistic that we'll have some progress to report next Monday night. So there's no action to be taken on this tonight. We can just table it for a week.
Let's do that. Okay. So we now are on to item 6. 6A is schedule a public hearing for the Chapter 61A right of first refusal for the Cricket Land Spec Pond land. So the clock is ticking.
The clock's ticking. The Board of Selectmen has held public hearings in the past on some, not all, but certainly those Chapter 61A properties that, in which there was a significant amount of public interest. To have a public hearing, to gauge whether there was interest from the community in exercising the right of first refusal or not, that is, in acquiring the property, or, as Mr. McIver's letter points out, another option is that the board can assign the right of first refusal to a nonprofit conservation entity for them to acquire it, but they still have to acquire it within the 120 days. So we're dealing with if the right of first refusal to acquire it is to be exercised, that would have to be done by middle of February. If it's done by the town through acquiring it, the council advises that the safest course of action is to call a town meeting and to vote to acquire it. I hardly recommend that as the means you do it, among other reasons, because you don't have any money unless you do that, unless you go to town meeting. It's one thing to take a vote to exercise the right of first refusal. You still need a town meeting vote to make the appropriation for the funds.
And the case law is a touch ambiguous about actually appropriating it after the 120 days? Is
Yeah,
that right?
there's a 90-day period to consummate the deal after you exercise the right of first refusal. But you still need, I can't get past the fact that you need a vote of town meeting to appropriate the money. And without that, you're really not, you're spinning wheels. So if there were an eye to wanting to acquire the property, in particular the Cricket Lane property, which is offered for $1 million and has been identified as a special recreation site, if you wanted to acquire that property, one way to gauge whether it's worth going to town meeting or what kind of interest there is to have a public hearing and invite comment. And then if the determination were made to, that you wanted to pursue it and to bring to town meeting the matter of acquiring of it, then I'd also prepared in the packet, what does the timeline look like, and you could vote. So let's say if on your meeting on the 4th, when you have a hearing, you either take it under advisement, or if you wanted to make a policy decision at your next meeting, which is December 18th, you could vote on December 18th to call a special town meeting for February 5th, which is the proposed date. We still have to see if we have a room for that and so on, but
I had an idea, and I mentioned it, I think, Keith, we were both at the pre-town meeting.
Yes.
We were made aware of this, and I'm not sure anything about what their intents are, but George and his sister Mary Beth are terrific people, grew up in town, and I would bet that they would be amenable to an approach. So if that, I just think we ought to explore that option if we're interested, and I support purchasing it, even though the figure seems right in the ballpark for what it should be for a ballpark. And I'm sure that'll have to be, vetted officially, but, before we start assuming that we have to do things like call town meetings during that time frame, maybe they're, willing sellers and will be, more accommodating to us, so that we can perhaps get an agreement prospectively and do it at our own regularly scheduled next special town meeting, which wouldn't be until May. But I'm just saying we should explore the possibility, if we're indeed interested, of going directly to George Jones and Mary Beth Misrobian and seeing if they want to work with us rather than just going forward with the development.
I think that what town council had, in our preliminary discussion, had identified as an option is if you could get the property owner to agree to extend the 120 days that we have under 61A, to extend that to a time that bridges us and takes us to our annual town meeting in May, then that would be one way to avoid having a special town meeting in February, and to bring the matter.
And in fairness, we should only do that to them if we're sincere about, following
Right.
through on it.
And it's only the current property owner, not the other party to the purchase and sale agreement, that needs to extend that 120 days? Or do both parties need to agree to extend it?
They can't convey it until they've gone through this
Well-
process, right? So it's their,
Well, that's a good question,
They've got a purchase and
because
sale
the
agreement.
party that we had in front of us for the 61A for Cooper was the buyer, not the seller.
not really looking to replicate that whole process, are we?
Well, I think we want to be guided by, we can certainly pose the question to town council of who would have standing to extend the 120 days to beyond February to bring us to a May town meeting, if that were an option. But as Mr. Glavy says, if you don't really have any intention of buying it,
Why do it?
then the extension is just not worth pursuing. But I think we have the opportunity to find out a procedural answer to the question, and then to gauge input in the feeling of the public at the December 4th. And we'll shoot for the December 4th hearing to have all that information assembled.
Yeah. If I'm not mistaken, I think George lives in Chelmsford, and his sister probably lives in the North Shore somewhere or whatever.
If you had an offer in on a piece of property, why would you want to wait for the town to make up their mind? I would think he probably has some standing. That's why it's a good legal question to ask.
I'm not sure what the answer is.
But if we're gonna match
I
the
would think
same
the other
price,
party to the contract has
Well,
some.
He must have some standing.
That's what they were gonna do with the
yeah,
building.
but if we're gonna match the price, what do they have? They have a P&S
Yeah,
that's
'cause-
attached here,
Right,
right?
because what we're not doing, though, we're not getting in the middle of their deal between the two of them. Because we're not busting
They're
up the
operating under
deal.
61A, the right
We
of
are
first refusal.
operating under what our right is under 61A.
Yeah.
And so we just want to be careful that we're narrowly
I mean-
doing that.
They're telling us they've included the P&S, they have an offer, but we also have a right, to
Right.
make a bid for it.
Right.
It'd be great to get some fields up that part of town, too.
Well, included in the packet, and I appreciate the field study from Gale Associates being included in the packet.
the proposal to, if we were to purchase that property and put in what Gale Associates proposed, it's like $2.8, $2.9 million
top
to
of that,
do what they
yeah.
wanted to do.
Right, because
So-
Gale didn't include acquiring the parcel as part of that
Correct.
cost.
Right.
Correct.
Right.
Well, we don't, maybe somebody will do it a little more.
Yeah, well, maybe.
Yeah, these are the parcels that we're looking at. We actually got notice about two parcels, the 100 Spec Pond Road, with a domicile on it for
$200,000.
200,000, and then the vacant 11 acres for 1 million. And this was this is an excerpt of what was in the
Yeah, 2.9.
the Gale report.
$3 million.
Yeah, almost $3 million to develop.
But we know those costs are gonna hit us wherever we build a field, so when we come around to building fields, it's, that's what we're gonna be looking at.
I don't disagree.
Yep.
I think, I mean, they gave us best case scenario, I think, yeah, they threw a lot at us, they had a splash park, there was a lot involved with what they were, shelters and that kind of thing. This hearing, this is not a hearing tonight, this is just for us to schedule a public hearing, but there are certainly people in the room that want to be heard, so I'm just gonna open it up unless anybody else has anything from board. No? Okay, so gentlemen,
Pete Scantlebury, 14 Cricket Lane. I'm kind of representing the Spec Pond Association, the people who live around there, and we're obviously interested in what's going to transpire with this piece of property. We've always seen it's used as farmland, deer and turkeys and whatever. So we're here more out of interest and obviously concerned what's going to happen with that piece of property.
Have any of you folks had contact with Georgie or anything about this? No?
No, I mean, I just got, our president, Rob Hartz, was hoping to be here, but he had to travel to the West Coast. But I said I would come here to see what transpired. There is quite a bit of interest, and maybe there's something we can do, but that's all I can say. There's really very little substantial I can say on the matter.
okay, it's gentleman in front, and Mr. Alpern had his hand up in the back as well.
He's gonna give us some free legal advice, but.
You'll find out.
Yeah, sure.
Dave Locke, 2 Barron Way, around you guys, everybody around there. Rob gave me a little bit of a snapshot, if I may have permission to run through it real fast on reasons why. One big one that stands out is it is the recharge area.
I think for the record, you probably gotta identify yourself. I know we know.
Dave Locke, 2 Barron Way. Yeah, on the way up.
It's past 8.
If not that I have a beard, it's all good. So, it's the recharge area for the spectacle pond, so that's a huge thing that we're thinking about too for drainage. So if there's a lot of water coming from there, where we do 2 million gallons, 2 million gallons of water a day for 2 or 3 different towns, it's a big possibility of contamination from sewage and from other things from other homes.
We've got a well set up there too.
Was that?
We've got a well, treatment plant up there.
Yeah, right off spec, yeah, that's right. So, the biggest thing also about that too is the land was granted to some of the families around Cricket. Carol Samble is going to speak to it at some point as well about King George III handing it over as deeded to her. So it was something that was, or their family with the Kimball family, something that has a lot of history to it. So this land, I've only lived here since last July. So we've come to love everybody around there. Everybody, even the people that are like, slow down, which is awesome because we don't want anybody, we have a 3-year-old now, so it's cool. And the whole area, as I'm looking at the map, will be affected by large community that we love whitetail. So on whitetail, all those houses, they're awesome. But if it turns into something that's more developed into housing like that, it does take away from the integrity of the town. The other thing is the integrity of all the other towns that are being very aggressive with purchasing up land and preserving it to keep the integrity of the land, but also to preserve agriculture around the area. Everything around here is farmland and things of that sort. So this is a big hay field, which could be a huge impact to a lot of different people, where we're all looking to build the economies around us and all over for businesses and jobs and all that as well. Air especially put up a no holds barred kind of quote comment that we are going to buy every bit of land we can to preserve it. Not that we have to be Air, but at the same time, it's something that's around us.
You already have beat air in that department, so.
Well, it's good. I mean, it's just speaking to the fact that everybody now really looking to that. Development is awesome. We have the point where we're getting the development, we're getting business, we're getting revenue from all that. So that's really huge for us, where this would take away from all of us, you know, in the little, quick, close vicinity of it. The fields that you showed before would be awesome, the courts, things of that sort. That would be something that would be very great with a curfew type thing, I guess, as well, because it's right up against all the houses. So, and it wouldn't make sense to gate it, so you wouldn't want to be doing all that, because then you get more interest to things. But that's something to look at, is how do we approach that as a team, as a community, and the board, you know, how do we approach something like that? Finally, one thing too, the Conservation Trust, around a year ago when it was built, together, one significant thing was Littleton is defined by its agricultural heritage and open space. You must do all you can to preserve it. So as a community to the board, and the board to the community, as all of us fighting together to preserve our own homeland, which is weird for me to say, but our home area land is awesome because it just keeps us all that much more tight-knit. So it's just something for all of us to really push for and look for. But the recharge area is something to really, really think about, because that's 200 feet approximately plus above the aquifer. So everything is running straight under that, and the tests have been done with the water department and with the trust. So it's really important for runoff and something that's going to affect our drinking water. That's all I have to say.
I appreciate it. Thank you. So, again, definitely going to let everybody else talk, but this is, what we're doing tonight is we're actually scheduling a hearing so that all of this can come forward, so we'll consider this a rough draft. No, I appreciate everything. That's what, you guys are here, so I'm not going to say no, wait until the 4th, but. Counselor?
Paul Alphen. I represent the purchaser, R.D. Kennard Homes, Inc. As early as maybe tomorrow, you'll receive a letter from Sellers Council clarifying the 61A notice that was previously provided. The house lot on Spectacle Pond Road is not in 61A, and that agreement or reference to that land should not have been included in Sellers Council's notice. So that correction, I've seen it, it's forthcoming. I didn't want the public to think that that piece of property was included as part of this.
So we're only discussing the 11.08.
Just the 11 acres.
Right, it's actually a little bit less than 11 acres, because as you'll see in the correction letter, there was a parcel of land that was previously conveyed, and I did the math, and it got into the, you'll see it in the correction letter, it's a little bit less than 11 acres, or right around 11 acres, yeah.
But it's still $1 million.
The price didn't change.
Okay.
The price,
Okay,
yeah,
all right.
yes.
Okay. Didn't think so.
That was an interim revaluation.
Just, yeah, between the time it took him to walk up to the front of the room.
Thank you for the
Thank
clarification.
you.
So I guess you're not going to answer a question of whether we need to go to the,
Well, I would think that any contract, in order to amend the regardless of what contract it is, in order to change the contract, it would require both parties to agree to amend the contract.
They executed a purchase and sale, so I think.
There is an executed purchase and sale agreement. This isn't offered, this is an executed purchase and sale agreement. And so I think that if you were inclined to do that, you'd have to approach.
well,
both
there
the buyer
are
and
instructions
seller.
in the packet we got about who to send the mail to, and I think it was Attorney Turk who's.
Right, he represents the seller, correct.
So on Attorney Alphen's representation, we can, I would suggest we amend the public hearing notice to just reference the larger parcel and not the.
That would be the right thing to do.
Yeah, I would suggest that we
I have no
get
problem.
clarification, you know, just to be sure.
Just
No,
email me
no.
the letter?
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Sanders, I did see your hand up. Hold on one second, though. This woman up here had her hand up before you did.
Hi, I'm Diana Paradise on 10 Cricket Lane. It's very interesting to hear about the conversation. I'm glad we are scheduling a public hearing. I had heard that the plans by Gail and the evaluation for Fields was actually off the table. Is that not the case now?
You may have heard, and I actually may have stated that because there was a purchase and sale for the property, that it's not something that, in my opinion, should have been included in our field study.
Okay.
So, but this changed it a bit because it is a 61A piece of property, which, once that purchase and sale is executed, it triggers a chain of events, which gives us the opportunity, us, the town, not us, the right of first refusal. So we've got an opportunity to basically match the the purchase and sale agreement that was executed. So if we did exercise that right, purchase the land, then we can do with it what the town wanted to do with it.
I see, that's helpful. And I think, again, just speaking for the residents around that property, I've lived there for about 14 years now. The field has been a big part of the pride of the neighborhood, and having that open field is something that the neighbors have very much cherished, and we'd love to be able to have discussions around that, to figure out how we can, as a collective town and the nearby neighbors, become good stewards of that property. We know that time marches on and progress continues. I think we've all been very happy with the innovations and the progress that we've had in the point. There's another big development in Cooper Farm Estates. At what point, maybe is there a balance where we can, again, have very collaborative discussions with the town about how we can best utilize that property and not lose the essence of what we have there, which again is, it's a large parcel by some standards, I would say. Maybe a smaller, more intimate parcel by other standards, depending upon what the developer is planning to do and how large it's thinking of getting. But I think I look forward to collaborative, continued communications about it to make sure we're doing the right thing by the town and by the residents.
Appreciate that input. We do, anytime these come before us, we have to make a decision as to whether or not we're going to execute it, which is why we're having a public hearing, to get the input. And then we have to basically look at the checkbook and say, is this something that we can afford? Can we afford, now it's not $1.2 million, it's $1 million to purchase 11 acres to do what we don't know. So, we rely on input from the residents, from the Conservation Trust, and from, our own input as well, and we try to solicit that input. I appreciate your comments. Let me just go to Mr. Sanders. Mr. Sanders.
George Sanders, 672 Great Road. I think that the town needs to exercise its right on this piece of property. For one, there's a commodity there, which is water. As the gentleman said earlier, that's a concern, that we don't want our water to become polluted. And normally, when you get an area there in construction, and depends on what they're gonna put in there, in the uprise, and you got the residents there, they're happy with the field, just being the field, there's open space there, and the wildlife that's there. As we know today, there's so much building and development that's going on, the wildlife is coming in out of the backyard looking for food. Because we're pulling them out of their environment by building and just taking away things that typically nature at one point in time, there was so much there that, there's those saying that you're in the forest there and you can't see out of it. But nowadays, you can look right straight through the forest there. But I think that it would be beneficial to the town to pursue that property and obtain that property at the $1 million or whatever it is there, and put it in open space. And then I think the neighborhood would not be upset by having to worry about what's going to go in over there, what they're going to do over there. And I realize there's a purchase and sale, and it seems like so much land is being ate up in this town with development, putting housing in and so forth and so on. We sort of kind of got to look at the open space that we have. And when we have an opportunity to grab that, I think that we should grab it, because I was a little bit surprised to hear the board talking about whether or not we should pursue it or not, and the hesitant there. And that didn't sound good to me, and that's why I'm up here speaking and tell you that, it shouldn't be a hesitant about going after that. You should exercise the right and get that. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll speak for myself, Mr. Sanders. I think that, I hope I didn't send the message that we've got a hesitancy. The reason we're having the hearing is so that we can get the input from the town and find out if the town wants us to exercise the right. So it's based on the information that we have before us right now. It's not necessarily something that I think any one of us has made up our minds on. We need to get the input from the neighbors, from the town as a whole. There is a financial impact. If we do decide to purchase this property, it would be $1 million that we wouldn't spend on something else. Or we'd have to do a debt exclusion, or we'd have to find a way to pay for it. So I apologize if I was unclear and stated that we didn't want to exercise our right, or however that was interpreted. I apologize for that. Dave, I know you had something else that you wanted to clarify?
Yeah, one more.
More.
If there's other parties that are willing to, like, citizens that are willing to purchase portions of that as well, to drop that price, so someone else is buying a portion of it, the town gets another portion, or would it be all or nothing for the town? So if other people are looking to do that and put it in a conservation trust, how does that work?
So
That's, I just want to.
there's, as I'm not an expert on 61A, and
Have to
our
approach the property owners, I think, you know.
Yeah, so
We don't have that option.
We have the opportunity to exercise our right to purchase it.
Yep.
Or to reassign the right to, we've done that with Sudbury Valley Trust purchased, or we reassigned the right to them for some forest land over on Harvard Avenue. So there's the opportunity to potentially reassign the right, but I wouldn't be able to speak to
What
whether.
they
or
do
not-
privately
I
is,
think it's either or, either the town the town is the one with the right of first refusal under 61A. Either the town exercises that right itself, or it assigns that right in whole to another party, a nonprofit. We can't, I don't think we can't divide that into parts.
The seller would have to join.
And there's nothing prohibiting, let's say if the purpose for which the property is being acquired is agreeable to some other entity that wants to put money on the table, they can certainly give that money to the town, and the town can reduce the amount that we're having to use for public funds to acquire the property. So if there were, $100,000 that someone wanted to have go towards the acquisition of the property, part of it could be that the town receives $100,000 and puts that on account, and that we appropriate $900,000 at town meeting, so that we have a total of $1 million.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. McIver?
Sure. Don McIver, Littleton Conservation Trust. As I understand it from lawyers I've talked to, and you should check this with town council, is that if the town acquires it through right of first refusal, it can do whatever it wants with it. Presumably, there'd be a compelling reason to acquire it. You could sell it to a third party. So it's somewhat open. If the right of first refusal were assigned to a qualified 501c3 conservation entity, such as Sudbury Valley Trustees, it's required that they preserve 70% of it in one of the chapter uses, agriculture being one of those, conservation being another, of course, forestry, which doesn't really apply here. So it could be limited development, but 70% of it would have to be maintained in one of those chapter 61 uses.
Thank you. All right, Alicia, appreciate you being patient. I saw your hand up over there, and
That's okay. The only piece that I just wanted to speak about, so Alicia Day, I'm a resident, I'm also the director for Littleton Parks and Recreation. We had talked about, you had mentioned before about the Gale presentation. So at the time when we did the field needs assessment, this was kind of like a dream property.
Right.
So I think that, a lot of that information was not, they didn't look too much into it because they didn't know when this was actually going to be able to come up. But we wanted them to take a look at it anyway because it is a beautiful piece of property for fields. So recently, also in the master plan, we did have, that is part of it as well, as to evaluate the fields assessment, which has come back to say that we do need sports fields. And this is, again, a very easy way to be able to add this. So when Chuck talked about this phased out option of being the $2.9 million, this was everything in the kitchen sink.
Right.
So, this is something that if we were able to obtain this property, to look into potentially doing these athletic fields or, other things as well, potentially playgrounds, fit courses, walking paths, stuff like that. it's something that can be phased out over time. It's not something that you have to do everything in the kitchen sink overnight. So it is something, you know, the Park Commission's going to have a meeting this next Tuesday to talk about it, and I think that they would be, you know, in favor of supporting this, but I'll let you know on Tuesday.
Thank you. Anybody else have any comments relative to this matter? Okay, we will be having a hearing on December 4th, well, as long as we get a motion.
Maybe not, right?
And Mr. Chairman, assuming we get a motion to set the hearing, would we also be authorizing yourself or council yourself or Keith to talk to council about some of these issues about what we can do in advance of that, or, you know, what are our obligations in terms of who we can deal with?
We have the chair and vice chair.
So drag me into this, do you? Okay,
Yeah, like you just threw me in. As long as it's not three of us.
As long as the topic is pursued, that's all I want to make sure happens.
Would we want to have, given the various potential options, would we want to have council there? at-
President of the 4th?
At the public
I
meeting?
think that
Oh,
was
probably.
Oh, sure,
Yeah.
yeah.
I would,
We get confused
Like that,
easily
yeah.
by what we,
particularly
by the
because
competing.
right now it's our,
Opinions.
right now, one public hearing that we would have.
Christmas in the
so
Harrington
we have to
House,
make
too,
sure
you could
we're
probably
getting
use the
that.
money, you know.
All right, so we'll, amongst the three of us, we'll channel some of that town council
Sure.
conversation. And entertain a motion?
Move that the Board of Selectmen vote to schedule a public hearing for Monday, December 4th, 2017 at 8 PM on whether or not to exercise the town's right of first refusal under MGL Chapter 61A, Section 14, to acquire from George Jones and Mary Beth Miserobian the approximately 11 acres abutting 100 Spectacle Pond Road, Lot R23 4A, AKA the Cricket Lane property, for a bona fide offer of $1 million.
Second. Moved and seconded, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous. We will be having a hearing on December 4th at 8 PM.
Struck that one, so. This is how, and you'll be able to do this on your iPad.
Where do you think you might hold it?
I believe we'll hold it right here. It's a regular
This is
scheduled
where
meeting. Right here.
This is where we meet. Great.
All right? Good, thank you all for coming out. Appreciate it. Mr. MacGyver, thank you for that input. Okay, we do not have any minutes to approve. Is there any other matters before us? Any other matter before us that we?
One thing to note, it circulated a couple of weeks ago, or between last meeting and I think town meeting, the letter that Cindy and I had drafted regarding the opioid matter to state representatives. That didn't make it onto this agenda, but perhaps it can make it onto next Monday's agenda so we can discuss it, hopefully.
Sure.
Bless
Thank
it.
you.
And I
Got the shore.
forgot to mention, just came in over the transom late in the day, but relative to one of the points that Cindy and I are working on, the data-driven analysis, Comstat, Aimstat, whatever. Thatcher Keyser did get back to us and eager to meet with us the next week or two when he's not traveling. Hopefully, we can come back with some ideas to share.
Pretty good.
And then the last question I had, we had discussed at one point at the town meeting having a list of open board and commission vacancies that we needed to fill. Do we have that list?
I actually,
together?
yeah, we have that
Thank you.
list, Chase.
Okay.
And it's actually in an Excel format. Maybe we could add that to the agenda for next Monday. Paul and I have gone
Yeah, I
through
need
that
to-
list.
Yep.
If you guys are still working on it.
No,
Yeah,
we're
no,
about ready to,
it's
we're about ready to go on that.
Ready to
by
go,
now.
pretty
We
much.
need it for the packet by tomorrow.
Yeah, in fact,
Yeah.
why
I
don't
could-
you give us a little time and we can cover a couple of topics, do that, and if we have any
Right,
update.
I just wanted to get that actually wrapped up before they launch the new town website, because I think a lot of that information's not gonna need.
Right, we're gonna get a lot of eyes on that website, so
Right,
let's,
So we'll have
use
updates.
it.
Yeah.
So we'll have the opioid letter, which we've got.
Right,
We'll have the
It's just to sign that, right?
list of town boards which we're
I can
going
email
to
it.
get tomorrow.
I can email it to
Okay,
you.
town board list, okay.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Well, we may, under that whatever general topic we were calling that, what was that, government organization, or, I don't know, what was the term we had for it? It was carried around with us.
Structure.
organizational.
So you'll have the written update for the packets by tomorrow?
Yeah.
On that
Yeah, on
topic, yeah.
that topic.
Yeah, the other might just be verbal.
Rules.
We asked,
What are you calling it?
from the retreat, it was that.
Organizational review.
Right,
that's what
so
it
we
was.
need the written handout to put it on the
Right,
agenda.
yeah. You'll just give them a list as you last.
Yeah, yeah, just on the
Okay.
boards and committees.
Very good.
Okay, if there's nothing else, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. It's been moved
Second.
and seconded. All those in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, it's unanimous. We are adjourned. Thank you very much, folks. We are meeting again next Monday. Same bad channel.
Good to see you all.
Thanks, David.